Hey everybody, it's Rocky the Ramone, and I am proud to announce my 2024 fall tour of Japan. I'll arrive in Tokyo just in time for Halloween and will stay for about 3 weeks. Not only do I have gigs all over the country, but I also intend to perform on the street because Japan has an active busking scene. Last year I spent about 10 hours playing on the streets of Kabukicho, which is the Tokyo equivalent of Times Square. My adventures will take me all over Japan, from the megacities to the small towns. This is my second trip, and now that I have some experience and have a lot more confidence, I will be trying to make contacts and friendships so that I can eventually treat Japan as my second home. If you're a musician that always wanted to play Japan, or even if you just want to take a vacation there, this information might give you the itch to go. Last year, I documented my first trip to Japan, and my Patreon supporters got to see the trip in real time. But this year, I will be looking at several new methods of sharing my exclusive content. I will be making more content about touring in Japan in future posts, so stick around till the end of the video and I'll tell you the future topics. I will also talk about how you can participate in supporting my upcoming trip to Japan. Playing gigs in Japan isn't as hard as you think. Yeah, there's the language difference, and Japanese bookers have a little bit of a different way of doing business. But if you look at the nuts and bolts of actual touring in Japan, you will find that it is much easier than you think. Mostly because of one thing, and that is a Shinkansen, which is a super fast train that connects you to all the major cities. All of these facts and figures are from the perspective of a solo artist, but you can do the simple multiplication and apply it to your band. This first installment is about the costs of traveling to Japan and performing in multiple cities. All of the estimates have been rounded up just a little bit to pad the budget for some extra breathing room. Let's start with the airline ticket. The fare from my hometown of Dallas, Texas to Japan in 2024 is about $2,400. That's a non-stop, round trip in economy with one checked bag and a carry-on. I went with a non-stop fare on my 2023 visit, and the price was about $1,800. This year, I was able to save a considerable amount of money with routes that had some transfers and layovers. In my case, it is Dallas to Canada with a layover for a few hours, then Canada to Japan. That's an extra 6 hours of your time with one layover, but you're saving $1,350. While I was researching this route, the price stayed at about $1,050. I plan to either take a nap or get some work done or walk around get some exercise. Either way, I'll take it. Next up, transportation. The complexity of your transportation needs will depend on how many different cities you want to play. It is possible to do multiple dates in one city, so you may choose to play in a few major cities like Tokyo and Osaka. There are local buses and taxis, but you will probably spend most of your time taking the train. That's both inner-city trains and the Shinkansen between the cities. If that's the case, then you won't need to consider buying a JR Rail Pass. The JR Rail Pass allows you unlimited trips on both inner-city and Shinkansen lines. There are less expensive regional passes, and the most expensive pass covers all of Japan. You can pay extra for the green car, which is first class, but what musician is going to spend money on luxury? Unfortunately, the price of the rail pass has risen dramatically in 2024. So if you're visiting just a few cities, the JR Pass may not be cost effective. I will be traveling as far south as Fukuoka, plus I plan to visit other cities in between those dates. As a side note, The one show that is still unconfirmed would be up north, but that would still be covered by the JR Pass. That's a lot of train travel. The cost of a JR Pass for 3 weeks is $675. After plotting out the routes and using the JR Pass fare calculator, I estimate that the combined cost of these trips would be about $640. I can't predict what those fares will be in October if I buy them on the spot. The advantage of the JR Pass is that it also covers local trips on city lines where the average fare is about $1.50 per trip, depending on how far you go. You will be on the train a lot in Japan, and those individual trips will add up. It makes sense for me to buy the unlimited JR Pass because it means I don't have to purchase tickets separately for every trip. Wi-Fi. You do not want to go to Japan and depend on catching a signal as you travel around. Like in America, there's lots of places that have free Wi-Fi, but I need to stress how important it is to have a reliable source of Wi-Fi while you are traveling in Japan. You will need it for Google Maps in order to navigate the streets and train lines accurately. Any translator app needs to be online. And you're also going to need access to essential bank and credit card accounts as you travel. Without Wi-Fi, you're going to be the helpless gaijin wandering around lost and making Japanese people uncomfortable by asking them if they can help you. There are 2 ways to go. The cheaper option is a SIM card and the prices vary. I find the SIM card too limiting, so I'm not really even going to talk about it. If I'm traveling, I'm going to need the internet for both of my laptops, especially at a gig, and my phone. The internet hotspot is more expensive, but it connects all your devices. I found a rate for 3 weeks for about $175. Accommodations. This is where prices will vary for an individual versus a group of people. Groups can lower the cost of apartments and Airbnbs by putting everybody in the same room, but a single person can get some really cheap rates if you're willing to sacrifice some comforts. The cheapest of all possibilities is a hostel, which doesn't interest me at all. Next, there's the capsule hotel. I stayed in a capsule hotel last year in Shinjuku, and it cost about $35 a night, but I had to book in advance on one of the popular booking sites. There were times when I paid more, but that was a last-minute booking, and it was on the weekend as well. Staying at a capsule hotel is an adventure for sure, but the biggest negative about it is that you have to get up in the morning and vacate at 10 a.m., and you can't come back for 3 or 4 hours while the capsules are sanitized. This time, I'm going for the business hotel, which fits into my budget of about $40 to $45 a night, again if you book in advance. I think it will be worth the extra cost to sleep late in a private room with my own toilet and shower. It will also be worth it not to have to navigate around naked dudes every 10 feet in the locker room. Based on my schedule, a loose estimate of business hotels for 3 weeks will be about $1,200, including taxes and fees. Food and drink. This next topic needs a bit of a disclaimer. Again, I'm speaking from personal experience, so your results may vary. As a musician, one of the things you may not have to worry about so much is food and drink, especially drinks. Local Japanese people bought me drinks every time I went out to a bar, and I was even treated to a free ramen or 2 by a fan who owned a ramen shop. Nevertheless, you should assume that no one will give you anything for free. I'm a lightweight, so I don't have to spend too much on alcohol. I am also a cheap eater, So I estimate that 3 weeks of food and drink would be about $1,000. Although this time, I might treat myself to some real Wagyu beef, so that total might go up a tad. These are the bare bones essential costs of a 3-week trip to Japan with a fairly busy travel schedule. I did not include things like souvenirs and touristy stuff, so you will just have to adjust the total for your own personal needs. Let's check out the total. Airfare, $1,050. JR Rail Pass, $675. Internet hotspot, $175. Hotels, $1,200. Food and drink, $1,000. That makes a total of $4,100. Optional expenses. I'm going to finance some merchandise for the tour. I contacted a local Japanese t-shirt maker and a batch of 50 shirts goes for about $320. Last year, I took a bunch of guitar picks and stickers and a few shirts to give away as gifts. They were a big hit with the Japanese audience, and I specifically got 2 of my gigs this year because of my gifts last year. A batch of picks and stickers were each $65, so that's $130, making a total of $450 for t-shirts, picks, and stickers. The new total is $4,550. Did you notice that I haven't mentioned how much I'm charging for shirts or how much I'm getting paid for gigs? That's because I booked these gigs with no guarantee of payment. I also don't know if I'm going to be allowed to sell shirts while I'm over there. I'm still trying to figure out how much money you'd have to make in Japan in order to justify getting a work permit. Either way, I figure that I'm going to end up spending way more than I make for this trip. But that's how touring is in the USA, where many independent bands end up either taking a loss or breaking even when they go out on the road. Finally, I ain't getting any younger, so I figure there's only so many Japan trips in my future, and I'm just going to go for broke. Speaking of broke, I said earlier that I would tell you about some ways for you to participate in my Japanese tour. The first way is to become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/rockytheramone. Supporters get access to exclusive content and live updates from my Japanese tour, plus all of my other projects like Multiple Man, as well as polls and more. The second way to support me is to buy a The Ramone t-shirt. With every purchase of a The Ramone t-shirt for $30, free shipping inside the continental USA, you will get access to exclusive content and live updates during the Japanese tour. I will have t-shirts of the Japanese tour after I come back. I am confident in my ability to pull this tour off, but there's always a chance of something causing it to be canceled. There could be a natural disaster or something else horrible could happen, and I don't want to make a batch of tour shirts for my American friends until I get back. I'm selling the shirts on my eBay account, which is Rockula Productions. I have 10 larges and 5 mediums left, and depending on the response, I will get more shirts printed up. Please consider buying a shirt to help support my trip to Japan and get free access to all the exclusive content I will post while I'm there. So that's the breakdown of how much it costs to go to Japan for 3 weeks. In the next video, I will give you a musician's perspective on how to play gigs and even tour in Japan. Thanks for watching. Remember to buy a shirt or go over to patreon.com/RockulaProductions and help support the Ramone get to Japan. I'm Rocky the Ramone.